Mogadishu. In India, the sole surviving gunman of the Mumbai attacks has lost his appeal against the death sentence. Mohammed Ajmal Amir Kasab is now expected to make a final appeal to India's Supreme Court. You'll remember Kasab was found guilty of taking part in the attacks which killed 166 people and injured more than 300.
It is going to take some more time before the death sentence against Mohammed Ajmal Kasab can be carried out, because under the Indian law, anybody who's been given the death sentence can take his or her appeal to the Supreme Court. That's the highest court in this country. In case the Supreme Court also upholds the death sentence, Mr. Kasab has another option of taking his mercy petition to the president of this country. Now, usually in the past, we've seen in such cases that it's a fairly long, drawn-out process. It takes many years before the case can come to any logical end. Mr. Kasab's defense team, of course, have been maintaining that their client is innocent, that he was merely manipulated by armed insurgent groups in Pakistan who asked him to carry out these attacks in India. But the judges at today's High Court in Maharashtra, they were quite clear. They used some very strong language in their judgment. They said that Mr. Kasab was personally responsible for the deaths of 7 people, including a top counter-terrorism official, and that this was not just any attack, but this was an attack on India's sovereignty. Mr. Kasab, who wasn't at the court proceedings at that time, he was actually watching all of this from his prison cell via video conference, didn't visibly react when the verdict was read out.
A court in Congo sentenced an army colonel to 20 years in prison for crimes against humanity. 62 women were raped after Lieutenant Colonel Mutare Kibibi ordered his troops to attack a village. It is the first time a commanding officer has been tried for such a crime. Talks to try to calm the simmering dispute between Thailand and Cambodia are about to be held in Indonesia. The ASEAN talks could broker a deal for observers to be stationed at the disputed temple dating back to the 11th century. The reported ceasefire is currently holding following weeks of deadly military exchanges. In China, the vital winter wheat crop's under threat because of the worst drought in decades. Dry weather is affecting 8 northern provinces. Some of those areas haven't had significant rainfall since last October. Government officials in Beijing estimate more than 67,000 square kilometres of wheat crop is affected, and 2.5 million people are facing shortages of drinking water. One solution: bore deeper wells, but that might create an even bigger problem. As Melissa Chan now reports.
Rows and rows of young wheat crop, tufts amidst the dry brown land. They say it's the worst drought Shandong province has seen in 200 years. China's in a crisis, but this is one for the world to watch as well.
Food security in China affects food security globally, simply because of China's population. So if our production's cut and we begin importing food, that would raise the cost of food globally.
The government is doing everything it can, diverting water to affected areas, working on improving irrigation, and building emergency wells.
Officials have come up with the slogan, "Fight the drought, dig the well." At this site, they've been working for about a week now, and the plan is to dig 60 meters deep into the ground.
Pulling up groundwater to irrigate the fields. It's a strategy officials have deployed time and again, but by tackling one problem, they've created another. Groundwater in China is fast disappearing, with workers boring deeper and deeper every year. Depressions dot the North China Plain here, where the earth floor sinks into former water cavities. Combined with the fact much of the water in the country is polluted, that leaves very little fresh water for farmers to use and people to drink. Farmer Kong Ling-he did not wait for the government to step in, but in desperation dug his own well to save his wheat crop.
There's no water here, no water. I was the first person to dig a well here. Next, my neighbors also dug wells, but they couldn't hit water.
If the drought continues, Mr. Kong's modest supply will dry up, and he would join his neighbors without water and without a harvest.
In the beginning, I could pull water up every 2 days, then every 15. There's less and less.
After this, there is nothing else. When water tables fall, springs dry up, rivers stop flowing, and lakes disappear. The well-intentioned efforts here will actually dig China into a deeper hole. Melissa Chan, Al Jazeera, Shandong Province, China.
And from a shortage of water to fish, New Zealand sounding the alarm over illegal tuna fishing in the Pacific Ocean. Foreign Minister Murray McCullough is warning the world's last sustainable fishery is running out of time. Many Pacific Island nations rely heavily on their fishing industries, but foreign trawlers are scouring the sea searching for lucrative tuna catches. It's thought more than $300 million worth a year are illegally plundered. New Zealand's urging Australia and the United States to step up aerial surveillance patrols. And a pair of pandas causing great excitement in Japan. They're making their new home at a zoo in Tokyo after flying in from a sanctuary in China. The zoo is hoping millions of visitors will come to see those new arrivals. And the government is hoping they'll help improve strained relations because of a territorial dispute. How about that? Panda solving a territorial dispute. It's costing the zoo $1 million a year to lease the animals for the next 10 years. That's money to be spent on wildlife protection in China. So that is a look at some of the other stories happening around the world today. Of course, our focus is on the uprising in Libya, ongoing and spreading. These, the latest pictures we've had through from Benghazi, which is the second biggest city in Libya, and it really was the epicenter of this uprising, the beginnings of it in the east of the country. It goes on even though a lot of our focus has moved to Tripoli, the capital. This continues to go on in Benghazi. The black smoke continuing to fill the sky. The injured people continue to be carried away as they are apparently under sustained attack, or continued attack, I should say, on the streets of Benghazi. These are some of the latest pictures we've had through there from daytime, so they'll probably be about 3 or 4 hours old now because it is coming up 8 p.m. in Tripoli just now. But you see it there, the black smoke still rising. The ambulances in the streets. So that's one development we've seen in Benghazi. I want to tell you about something offshore, which has been very interesting as well. Let's have a look at the pictures of the warplanes. 2 warplanes which landed in Malta. An hour away by plane, we're told, from Tripoli. These 2 jets were piloted by senior colonels of the Libyan Air Force who, when they arrived and were detained because they landed illegally, announced that they defected from the army, from the military, the Air Force, I should say, the Libyan Air Force. They had defected. They were told to bombard those protesters that we saw in Benghazi a moment ago, and they said, we won't do it. They refused to do it and instead took off and headed for Malta. They landed, they were detained, and that was the story they told officials. We also had reports of some helicopters landing. Must check with our correspondent about this as well. Reports of helicopters landing there as well, carrying French nationals who were also without their passports. They were detained as such. The reason it seems Malta was chosen was because of its proximity, only an hour away by plane from Tripoli. And what we hear going on now, whilst those warplanes are on the ground, is that there are continued bombardments of Tripoli. Many reports coming in from witnesses of warplanes bombing locations across the capital. We heard it from Adam, who was a protester we spoke to a little bit earlier. He said he'd heard the same reports. Give me a quote here of what we've heard from one witness. What we're witnessing today is unimaginable. Warplanes and helicopters indiscriminately bombing one area after another. There are many, many dead. One of the